Somehow, some way, we're going to have to make Sorry Joe Plus happen. I don't know how. I don't know way, but somehow, some way, it'll
I think
happen.
so.
Yeah, there we go.
It could be one of the it'd be like National Lampoon of the Onion. See, Sorry
Yeah.
Joe Plus could become a tour de force in the comedy world.
That's right. All right, let's do this thing.
You got a team, here's a word to the wise. You want to dominate your league? Go to Football Guys.
Football, I'm living in a fantasy. Football, got everybody mad at me. Football, cause every game I had to win. Football, I gotta be a champion. Football, I'm living in a fantasy.
It is part 1 of the Week 11 preview here on the Audible. And, well, our first game on Thursday night should be pretty simple to figure out for one side. It's Tennessee and Green Bay. Titan side first. Derrick Henry left. Derrick Henry right. Now with more Traylon Burks, I guess. We'll continue to watch that as Ryan Tannehill's return led to 250 through the air and a couple of touchdowns last week against the Broncos. The Broncos show, Bloom. But, okay, can they do a little bit more? What will the Titans bust out? Green Bay's got plenty of their own questions, but let's start with Tennessee here.
Yeah, an intriguing matchup, right? I mean, Cease, again, I feel like we've hit that halfway point in the season, and the mortality starts to creep in, right?
Yes.
Mortality for teams, mortality for players, mortality for eras even. And you see both of these teams. Tennessee, they're kind of indestructible. Tennessee's, that boxer who can take a lot of punches, but the punch they're throwing with Derrick Henry is not landing as solidly as Henry got up to. Remember, there was a stretch where he was over 30 carries, and since then he's been on the injury report. Everything's fine, but his effectiveness and his workload is going down, and so that puts more on Ryan Tannehill. Last week was Ryan Tannehill to Nick Westbrook-Yakina. Everyone had that on their fantasy football 2022 bingo card. Traylon Burks was back. Robert Woods still not really making much of an impact. Austin Hooper getting some targets. Even our man Jiggy Okonkwo, another 40 plus. He's the explosive play in this offense. He's not Traylon Burks when you're looking for the rookie that can make a difference here. But you can see if Henry's not doing, and of course Dontrell Hilliard in the passing game, he should be on your bench. But you will see Ryan Tannehill healthy enough to play, healthy enough to make the plays needed. You got to watch him last week, Cease. And he's going to have to make some plays unless we see a more impressive Derrick Henry than we've seen the last few weeks. And while Tennessee was feeling good, and Cease, I think a week or two ago when Sam Ellinger's in, we're like, well, they're just handing the division to Tennessee. No, it's so fast. Jeff Saturday, Matt Ryan. Look, if Tennessee loses this game and Indy can upset Philadelphia, you're looking at 6-4 versus 5-1 with a lot of football left. So speaking of mortality, Tennessee, nothing is guaranteed to them. And this is a game on the road against a revived, the defibrillator worked, Cease. The Packers are alive, and they're probably feeling pretty good right now.
The defibrillator is alive. And, well, I will quote Lee Corso, because you almost did right there, Bloom. Yeah. Not so fast, my friend.
Yeah.
Now it's Tennessee. It's Mike Vrabel. It's these guys are going to know how to get under the skin of Aaron Rodgers. Now it's Rodgers with more Randall Cobb, basically. Like the reports yesterday were like, not only is he activated, but he's probably going to play Thursday. I don't know what the heck flex. Is he our sleeper of the week, Bloom? Yeah. Right? Is that the thing? Like, okay, is that the guy? No, probably not. But lots of Christian Watson, right? As much Christian Watson as you can handle. And then we'll see what happens with the other touches. How much faith do you have in the Packers to actually get it right?
Yeah, this is a question, Cease, of, are the Packers just going to continue to tumble around like shoes in a dryer, and occasionally it'll land head up like last week? Or did they figure something out? Again, there's this relationship between Matt LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers, or between Aaron Rodgers and playing football, or between the Packers organization and Aaron Rodgers. It's always tenuous. That's been the story of the last few years, right? It's sometimes stretching thin. And last week, in a game where basically it was for the season, or maybe even putting a bow on the Aaron Rodgers era, they ran the ball. They ran the ball when they were trailing, Cease. They only passed 20 times, and it worked. And they won, and they beat a good team.
Shocking.
Right? So did they turn over a new leaf, or is it more like back to our good old ways? Looks like we made it. We're going to survive. This relationship is maybe going to produce something good. And Tennessee, so here's where it gets interesting. Tennessee stops the run, right? The one thing you don't want to do is you're taking on the better side of Tennessee's defense when you run. So how does that then translate to this game plan? And how much of it is Christian Watson? How much of the defibrillator was basically Christian Watson and his speed and his athleticism? Like you said, Cobb could be back. We'll see if this helps Allen Lazard. If defenses are worried about Christian Watson, then your Allen Lazard is back in that complementary role that he sometimes flourished in with Devontae Adams out there. So again, this is a fascinating game because of where these teams are in their arc right now. Maybe Tennessee feeling a little more pressure with Matt Ryan back. Green Bay feeling like the exhilaration of feeling like maybe something good is in the offing with Aaron Rodgers. And what these teams want to do probably isn't going to work.
Probably is not going to work. So we'll go to Sunday, and I'll tell you what's working. Justin Fields, that's working. Chicago and Atlanta is up next. And Chicago side, it's like now with even more David Montgomery, right? Even more Cole Kmet. A little more Darnell Mooney would make me happy. But Justin Fields' play is certainly making a lot of people happy or a lot of people quiet because those doubters, those haters, Bloom, they tend to be pretty quiet when it comes to Mr. Fields.
Yeah, this game, no playoff implications, but a fun game, and certainly one of the best shows in NFL and fantasy right now is Justin Fields. And you like this matchup. We'll see if A.J. Terrell is back. It seems like since A.J. Terrell is out, Atlanta's defense has really gotten a lot softer. And if you have Terrell canceling out Darnell Mooney, maybe that's good for Cole Kmet. You're going to keep Cole Kmet in your lineup either way. Tight end Armageddon out there. And then we'll see Dave Montgomery without Khalil Herbert. Herbert with the hip injury, some Treston Ebner, maybe a little more receiving, a little more quickness out of the backfield than what David Montgomery can provide. But the real story here continues to be Justin Fields, Cease. And this one's been a stunning change. And you still feel like Fields is doing it without a lot of weapons, without necessarily now part of his running game, but still the talk of the town, making that team about as interesting as they can be when they're on their way to a top 10 pick.
And they're on their way to that pick, and the Falcons are on their way to more Marcus Mariota. I don't know. Winning is the ultimate elixir, Bloom. That's why, like, Green Bay, it may fall apart for Green Bay because if Aaron Rodgers is winning, then he's going to try to wrestle more control instead of like, oh, I guess we got to run. Like, okay, so Atlanta, I don't know. Cordell Patterson there, and where's the Kyle Pitts line this week? Right. Something we always talk about.
Yeah, Cordell Patterson, you're gonna have a choice to make. There's 4 teams on bye. There's some startable running backs on bye, so maybe it won't be a choice. Maybe you have to play him. But after last week, and everything was set up, right? Carolina wasn't going to run away from Atlanta. Cordell Patterson tested that knee, came back, looked good, got those touchdowns. And Atlanta's running game continued to be on track until they played Carolina. And you did see some passing by Marcus Mariota in a futile comeback effort, but we're not counting on that in our lineup. It's just a choice on Patterson. I'm inclined to believe in Patterson just because of how well it does work when his running is aligned with this power running attitude by Atlanta. Kyle Pitts, the Kyle Pitts season and tight end Armageddon sees with Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz going down. It's like you want to hope again, right? This is the ultimate hold on because, well, what else do we have to hold on to at tight end? He has been getting the targets. They have been there. Marcus Mariota said, I need to make better use of him. So we'll see. Certainly it's one of those situations that could change in the second half, and you need it to change at tight end. Drake London, again, not happening this passing game. And usually when the passing game is turned on, it means that it's not a good game for Atlanta. So that's not a good combination, even though as Tampa Bay's on bye, if Atlanta can just beat the Bears, they're still very much in the mix to win this division.
Still very much in that mix. Well, what's the mix look like for Cleveland and Buffalo? Like, oh boy. And Buffalo side, very interesting. But Cleveland side, the one we do first. They're going to use Kareem Hunt, I guess, falling out of faith there, more Donovan Peoples-Jones. I don't know. I think we're all just kind of waiting for Deshaun Watson to come back and starting Nick Chubb, of course.
Yeah. This is a Cleveland team, again, trying to just keep a pulse, right? You want to stay mathematically alive for the playoffs to hand it off to Deshaun Watson in a couple of weeks. Let's see if the running game and Jacoby Brissett playing mistake-free football can steal one. And Buffalo's defense is vulnerable enough against the run that if you see a mistake here and there by the offense for Buffalo, we'll get to that. Cleveland can hang around. Cleveland can definitely play spoiler in this game against what should be a pretty emotionally drained Bills team.
Yes.
So Chubb, Hunt hasn't been doing as much. I don't even think he's a what the heck flex here. Amari Cooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones are, because if it goes the other way and Buffalo's offense is successful. Now, the other thing here, by the way, is I think it's going to dump lake effect snow. I got to slow down. Cease, do you know about lake effect snow?
Lake effect snow. It seems like I've heard of it.
Yeah. So lake effect snow is like, I had a lot of it at Syracuse. It's snow that's not part of a weather system, really. It's its own little mini weather system. So when it shows up, it can be like the in-laws. It can show up for weeks. And when it snowed for 3 weeks in Syracuse, it would snow. I didn't mean it would snow on and off every day. It would snow a little bit. I mean, you would go outside, it would be snowing for days on end. That's what's going to happen in Buffalo for the next few days. I think some of the forecasts are like 3 to 5 feet of snow. I don't know if the snow event is going to be over by the time this game is played, so we're going to watch that for sure. And if it is a snow game, Nick Chubb's got snow tires, so
Yes.
this could help them. We'll see if David Njoku's back for this one. Could there be anything more fitting actually than Cleveland and Buffalo played in lake effect snow?
No, it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. But what you're not going to see is these two teams at full strength.
Yeah,
because Josh Allen's certainly not at full strength. He's going to be out there. The assumption would be Wednesday morning when we're recording this, Bloom, that he'll miss some time in practice. Hey, Wednesday he's not going to practice. Like, I bet that would happen. And then play in this game. They tried a little bit more with Devin Singletary, but they still don't have the hammer. Hell, Jordan Howard just got released, right, by the Saints.
Right. Welcome back, David Johnson.
Can you get a big back, please?
Yeah.
Please get a big back. Please save some wear and tear on Josh Allen. Actually be able to convert a short yardage situation. Like, the one Achilles for the Bills is like staring at you in the face. Doesn't come up that often, but you can clearly see it. And well, they don't have it. So what the hell are they going to do this week in the snow against Buffalo?
Yeah. Here's what's weird, Cease. It's week 11. And if I told you back around week 3, week 4, then in week 11, we'd be feeling a little bit of a crisis of confidence with Buffalo.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds so outlandish. Come on. How did we get from here to there? But here we are. And they got to take care of business against what should be a pugnacious Cleveland team. What's Josh Allen's mental response, right? I mean, Josh Allen, and see, we've seen every quarterback go through periods like this. The greatest quarterbacks go through periods like this where it's an upstairs thing, although maybe it could be a little bit connected to his elbow, or maybe the injury creates the gap for the psychological slippage in these key moments, right? What's going on with Josh Allen? Remember, they beat Green Bay, but he was still making these kinds of decisions. And this is important because now, from a fantasy football perspective, we're going to keep playing Josh Allen. We're going to keep playing Diggs. We're going to keep playing Davis. Singletary, we're going to see, like you said, they're going to trust him. He had the 2 touchdowns, also had the fumble. You need that running game to really salt the game away. And Dawson Knox, whatever, it's tight end, you're going to play him anyway. And they obviously, as much as they want a receiving running back, they don't want to play the receiving running back. So Nyheim Hines. See, every time I get a Nyheim Hines question, it hurts me. It hurts my heart. But with Josh Allen, this is absolutely, Cease, in the movie, in the soap opera, like the melodramatic music is starting to swell, because if he has another game with mistakes, if they lose this game and it's a Josh Allen mistake or two, no matter how well he plays the rest of the game, you have a real issue here. So I think for Buffalo, this team looked so confident and looked like they were taking another step. But now, especially if you're looking at playing a road game, maybe not even winning the division because of what Miami's doing. Remember, the Jets, all of a sudden, Cease, what happened? All of a sudden, there's no gimmies in the AFC East. There's no gimme game against those teams. So Buffalo's got to show up. They've already lost to Miami and the Jets once this year. So, there's a lot of layers here, and it makes me feel for my Bills fans that I know this year came in with the highest of expectations.
No, we want the ending of the story to be happy. We want it to be triumphant. But Bloom, you mentioned it. And because I'm in my big ass gamer chair that makes me look like I have a mullet, You can't see Save the Cat, which is right there.
Mm-hmm.
I freaking love Save the Cat. Screenwriting book. Do you know what the Bills are in right now? And it's probably a little bit too early, so the movie's off.
Yeah.
The script is off, but they're in their all is lost moment.
Yeah.
Like in every movie, you get your midpoint and all these sorts of things, but 30 minutes before the end. And I will be that annoying person when I'm watching a movie with you.
Mm-hmm.
If it's able to be paused, I will pause it at the all is lost moment. I'll be like, how much time is left? Because in a good movie, it's going to be like 20 to 30 minutes left. In that final act, everything's lost. Your best friend tells you, you know what your problem is? You know what your problem is, Bloom?
Yeah.
You don't run the ball when it's short yardage situation. And then all of a sudden the light bulb comes on and the hero in the hero's journey, Bloom. It's all about the hero's journey, right? In the hero's journey, that's when when it clicks, when they become triumphant. So it's almost their all is lost moment. I guess I'd have to look at the Bills schedule to see what game that would be. But yeah, it feels like this one's a little bit too dramatic. Not as easy as maybe we thought it would be, or maybe even hoped it would be for Buffalo. Philadelphia, what's Jeff Saturday got on his plate, right? Jeff Saturday's like, God took down the Commanders, or the Commanders took down the Eagles. Now Jeff Saturday took down the Raiders. He's like, I'm going to take down the Eagles next. Probably not. But it's the Eagles licking their wounds after a surprising Monday night loss to the Commanders. How do they come out and respond against those plucky Colts with Jeff Saturday?
Yeah, this is an interesting matchup. These teams, again, 17 games. I don't know how to do the math. Let's just stick to every 4 years, these interconference matchups, right? And these teams are so tied together because of Frank Reich, because of Carson Wentz, even though neither of them are on either team. But certainly there's ripple effects, both of those figures, on where these franchises are at. And coming back down to where we are today, again, just like that Tennessee Green Bay game, just like we talk about with where Buffalo is, where these teams are in their psycho-emotional journey, let's keep it there, Cecil, is very interesting to know when they're going in opposite directions. And you can have maybe even some sort of gravitational force where they can accelerate each other, depending on if they're coming in with good vibes or bad vibes. For Philly, I mean, it's bad vibes, but not necessarily. Honestly, I think that football people, Cecil, would say it's a good thing they lost. Right? Let's just stop with the undefeated talk. You got to win the division. I mean, let's take care of that first, right? I mean, the Giants and the Cowboys are right there on their heels. Again, the NFC East. It's all about the East Coast bias, Cecil.
Right.
Even Dallas isn't really the East, but you get it. This is where the power lies in the NFL this year. Who had that happening? But Philadelphia has to answer a loss at home, not on the road, at home against a division rival that, quite frankly, is limited, right? Brian Robinson. Cecil, where does he rank in the top? If we rank 32 starting running backs in terms of, ability to make explosive plays, is he like 30th?
30th?
Yeah. So in Taylor Heineke. Okay, Taylor Heineke can throw the ball up for Terry McLaurin. He's smart enough to know that dude Terry McLaurin's going to make a play, and that's all they really have. And they were able to beat Philadelphia with ball control offense. So that's what makes this matchup and the contrast very interesting. Now for Philadelphia, they come out losing Dallas Goedert, and there is injustice in football, right? The football gods are capricious. Dallas Goedert hurt, should have been a penalty, a fumble. So how resilient is this offense? I think if you get more Quez Watkins involved, that's not bad. Grant Calcaterra could be a surprise. Remember, this is a player who at one point was the top receiving tight end in his class before he retired because of concussions. And then, of course, maybe A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith become better plays because it's more concentrated. You would think that Philadelphia is going to have some success through the air against Indianapolis. And then the test on Jalen Hurts. It wasn't really on Hurts, the loss. I don't think there was it wasn't an egregious game from Jalen Hurts. I think you go back to the drawing board as an offense and get A.J. Brown more involved. And, of course, Miles Sanders. And the other thing we'll watch with Miles Sanders is he's reaching his career high in carries soon. I think he's like 20 or 30 away from it. The point being, he's never been able to make it through a season and rack up 250, 275 carries, which is a mark of a certain kind of durability, right?
Right.
I mean, because all these running backs are playing hurt. All these running backs are banged up right now. He's obviously been successful. So Philadelphia has to answer this because, much like Tennessee, they could have some teams breathing down their neck if they keep losing games they're supposed to win.
Yeah, you know what I want, Bloom?
Yeah.
And it won't happen this week, but I'll keep dreaming.
Mm-hmm.
I want Tyree Jackson to
Sure.
turn into like Logan
Sure.
Thomas. Yeah. So get him healthy and get him out there. So until then, Grant Calcaterra, who our guy K1 wanted as sleeper of the week. Is he sleeper of the week?
Yeah.
No.
How deep we're in REM sleep, but yeah.
That's usually what wakes me up right before the show. Like, holy cow, I should stop dreaming about yelling at DMAC and start actually doing a real show.
What are you yelling at him when you're yelling?
I can't remember the other day, but like we were doing a show together and he wouldn't shut up. And I was just like, DMAC, shut up. And then I woke up. I was like, oh.
Do you have radio show anxiety dreams?
I guess so. Yeah, that's the case. I don't know what that means. I don't think it means good things, but I don't know what Jeff Saturday means. Run the ball, Jeff.
Right.
We're gonna pass block. We're gonna run block. Peyton Manning, when he yelled at Jeff Saturday, is like the greatest sideline rant of all times. But like, I don't know what we get with Jeff Saturday. I don't know. Like, we thought he'd be a yes man for Irsay with the whiskey burps, and then Matt Ryan starting. Right. So it's like, wait a second. Is he not the yes man? Is he the straw man? Is he the man that you throw up there to say he's the yes man, but he really is, but he's going to act like he's not? Like, I'm totally confused. And then they beat the Raiders because the Raiders suck.
Right.
And then now Saturday's got all this momentum. By the way, Bill Cowher, don't apologize. Memo to Bill Cowher. When you rant on Jeff Saturday and you call it out because it is a slap in the face to the integrity of this league, don't back up. I don't care if they beat freaking Josh McDaniels. Don't ever back down, Bill Cowher. What are you doing? No, Jeff Saturday. This is a bogus thing. They got the win.
Mm-hmm.
Will it be the big reveal, this week against the Eagles?
Yeah, see, so let's talk about this Jeff Saturday thing. Let's settle in on this for a second. Because it's an odd cocktail, right? It's an odd mix of yin yang. This whole development. It's very weird too. I mean, it's definitely like something's a little bit off in the simulation, right?
Yes.
It doesn't look like something we've seen before, really. But at the same time, and that makes it a very good and a very bad thing. And definitely to echo what you're saying about Bill Cowher and the idea of it being an insult or otherwise a move that delegitimizes something that a lot of people are working very hard and buying into and putting their trust and faith in a certain kind of system. And it undercuts that system, and it basically cheapens the work that people put in to get that kind of opportunity. And there's a bunch of different topics we could go off there, Cease. But there also is another angle to this that is good, that it delegitimizes, as some people have said, the idea that you have to sleep at the office and put in 90-hour weeks. And, this profession is about some sort of grinding that's only available to people who sacrifice everything else. And yeah, some guy that was just calling games, he has been a football player and he understands his way around a professional football team, but otherwise can just come in, maybe head coaches are figureheads, like Mike McCarthy, right? So what happens for the rest of the year is interesting, right? What happens for the rest of the year with this Colts team in some ways is going to inform what we think this means. But it means something, or at the very least, it's something we'll remember. And how is it so easy and so simple? Jonathan Taylor. Maybe it's just Jonathan Taylor being healthy, right? Maybe Jonathan Taylor being healthy. There are some teams that can be crowdsourced coached and be just fine, because any person that watches football would know. And then there are some teams, and here's the scandal, or what's good about Jeff Saturday. Maybe it shows how bogus some of the actual NFL regimes are, right? That someone who would just come in and do like, that guy is big and strong and fast, so give the ball to him. Like, well, that's actually better than a lot of teams. Like, that super simplistic approach to coaching. And it's going to match up with how Philadelphia was beat last week, right?
Well, let's take it a step further. And this is completely off topic, so I apologize. But Bloom, let's take it that step further. Because what we want one day is a players-owned league.
We're going to keep this into the universe, right?
Imagine if like this Jeff Saturday thing gets that ball rolling of like, oh, it can be a players-owned league. Imagine if someday a team like Green Bay would be like, we're not going to have a head coach. We're going to have a player coach.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. So there that's where the positives are, like fighting the corporate overlords of the NFL.
Yeah.
And just this notion or this idea, like, don't have a life. Like, no, you better have a little something because it's called not for long. You're going to burn yourself out.
Yeah. Yeah. And who knows, maybe healthier, emotional, spiritual, psychological people are more productive and better at their jobs. I mean, there's all kinds of angles we could go in here. We'll continue to develop this. See, this is what we're going to do, Cecil. We're going to just embed in this show one of those 1,747 other shows that we want to do. It's just embedded in here. And we're just doing little mini episodes.
It always
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, what's interesting about this isn't necessarily fantasy football. You're going to play Jonathan Taylor. Matt Ryan has revived this team, has revived this passing game. It looks like if there's a vulnerability here for the Eagles, you can make some plays outside, down the sidelines. I don't know if that's Michael Pittman or not with Matt Ryan's arm. Paris Campbell has some momentum, but probably low ceiling. Watching Kylan Granson, Frank Reich pet. So what does that mean? I don't know. He had a good week with Matt Ryan, and tight ends can produce sometimes in this offense. But again, this matchup, these 2 weeks ago, you would just draw a line through it and say there's nothing to see here. Now it's really interesting for both teams, including this very bizarre but potentially revealing Jeff Saturday saga.
Very bizarre and revealing. The Jets and the Patriots is, I don't know, a good game.
Yeah.
Yeah. How'd this happen?
Right?
With Zach Wilson and potentially Bailey Zappi. Like, imagine if that was the matchup. It's probably going to be Mac Jones, whatever. But still, Jets side of things is like, okay, Jets, what are we learning about this team? Robert Saleh's got the ear of them, to be sure. So James Robinson, Michael Carter at certain varying levels, low-end RB2 flex plays. Against New England, Bill Belichick's going to take him away. He's going to dare Zach Wilson to beat him. Well, can Zach Wilson do that with the likes of Tyler Conklin, Garrett Wilson, and others?
When was the last time this rivalry was good, Cecil? Rex Ryan years?
Yeah, the Sanchez years. Yep.
Yeah, Sanchez and Ryan. It was epic. It was epic. I mean, there was one of the teams. The Jets have always been a team when they're not, lying on the deck, that are not mystified by Bill Belichick, right? So, and of course, there's all kinds of intertwined. I mean, this is a team also that it's kind of incestuous. Some of the connections, the Jets, New England, the Giants, Bill Parcells. Anyway, what makes this a really interesting matchup is that both teams are coming off of a bye. So both teams have basically had 2 weeks to prepare for this bitter rivalry rematch, and one that has a ton of implications. See, we're getting to the part of the schedule where we'll talk about quasi playoff games. Okay.
Yes.
And it's not going to necessarily determine who makes the playoffs and who doesn't. But if you want to go to the playoffs, if you have designs on going to the playoffs, you need to win a game like this. You're both teams, right? And going for the Jets, the first time in this game, it was an offense that depended more on Zach Wilson. They were behind. Zach Wilson did rack up a bunch of yards, threw the ball, I think 2 touchdowns to Tyler Conklin. But then we saw a different blueprint going into the bye where they a LaFleur offense, a Shanahan offense. You run the ball, you get the backfield, have a big influence on the game, and you set up safe passes for Zach Wilson. So I think you want more James Robinson, you want more Michael Carter. I think these guys are more running back 2 than flexes. Of course, you're going to keep playing Garrett Wilson because he's just that good, right? I mean, he gives you that fear of missing out on the bench. And Zach Wilson, even though his athleticism and ability to keep plays alive gets him into trouble a lot, we have seen him make some plays like the Corey Davis. Probably isn't going to be back for this one. We'll see. Garrett Wilson can hit on one play with Zach Wilson. He does give you that ability, unlike, say, Marcus Mariota. And then Tyler Conklin. There's a lot of desperate people at tight end. Tyler Conklin is a desperation play, but he's one who's hit a few times this year.
Yeah, it's hit earlier in the season when they hadn't quite figured things out. So maybe now that they've more figured things out, that'll be better for Conklin. Maybe it'll be better for Hunter Henry on the other side as tight end desperation continues, because what else are they going to throw out there? Ramondre Stevenson, okay, but the New England side is so simple, Bloom. Now it could win, and that's all that matters for Belichick. But from a fantasy perspective, it's not terribly exciting to consider your, Jacoby Myers, Hunter Henrys, and such.
No, in part because the Jets defense is good.
Yes.
Robert Saleh, and they have momentum. So this is not, when the Patriots beat the Jets a few weeks ago, it was not on the strength of the offense. And this game is fascinating. Cease, can we just say that we're about halfway into the second year of the 2021 quarterback class, and wow, what a ride it has been for all 5 of them.
Mhm.
All 5 of them. In fact, you talk about where you are in the movie. If you pause it, Cecil, where
Right.
are we at in the Trevor Lawrence movie? He's already had the Urban Meyer chapter to open that up, right? Where are we at with the Trey? Oh my, Trey Lance, that's a tragedy. That one, right? Where are we
That's
at?
one of those disaster movies, like Day
Right.
After Tomorrow.
right. The skyscraper's on fire. And where are we at with Justin Fields? You know, that's the one that's becoming like soaring and triumphant right now.
Mhm.
Where are we at with Zach Wilson? We talked about things are calming down. He has a good team around him. How much sometimes is it having a good team around you? Although that didn't necessarily help for Baker Mayfield. And then we get to Mac Jones. He's out on the plank, Cecil. He has to be, right? Bill Belichick's not dense.
No.
Anybody, again, Jeff Saturday, run Jonathan Taylor. The better offense is better with Bailey Zappi than it's been with Mac Jones. I mean, that's not a controversial statement, Cecil.
No.
I mean, that's just I was saying what has happened.
And you're not some sort of zappy honk from
No.
before the draft who's like, he threw for 7 million yards. Like,
Right.
He's really not that good. I saw him
Hill
at the Shrine
talkers,
game. Like,
right?
he's fine. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
fine. But,
Yeah.
or no, I saw him at the Senior Bowl, and he was on there with the other Senior Bowl quarterbacks. And it was like, one of these guys doesn't fit. And guess who that guy was? Bailey Zappi. And that guy is better than Mac Jones.
Yeah, and also, you know, we saw this offense, the Patricia Judge offense. Remember, I was eating my words for a few weeks. Maybe this is going to be a good offense. Maybe just the football encyclopedia is go back to basics, but hasn't been working with Mac Jones. I mean, I don't want to be surprised if Jones is replaced at some point during this game, again, because the Jets defense is good, but that also means we're going to see a lot of Ramondre Stevenson. Damian Harris coming out of the bye healthier. Stevenson is still clearly the play over Harris. Harris has more what the heck flex here. Devontae Parker is going to be back. We did see Mac Jones. It was that Baltimore game. The one point when Mac Jones showed me something was when he was trying to come back against Baltimore, throwing downfield, taking a little more risks, playing more to the limits of his abilities. A lot of that, I think that was like a 5 for 160 kind of game for Devontae Parker. So we'll see if he's back. Maybe that changes the complexion of things here. But yeah, this is fun season. It reminds me of Bill Belichick and Rex Ryan. It was kind of like a wrestling main event, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're both kind of heels in a way, but they both have the part of the crowd that really cheers them on and identifies with them. So we still have Belichick, and now we have Robert Saleh. How does Robert Saleh fit? This is going to be interesting because I think that we can see he's got some fire, and his team does too.
Yeah, they do have fire, and they are a fun watch, to be sure. A couple of games left here in part 1 of the Week 11 preview on the Audible, and it is the Rams and the Saints.
Ugh.
Oh, boy. Some of these games are really exciting to talk about. Other games are like, we're in Delaware.
Yeah.
Right? The Wayne's World thing. Like, we're in Delaware.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. We're in Rams and Saints territory.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Are we going to talk about Kyron Williams? I think we are. Not a Matt Waldman favorite.
Yeah.
Like, usually we say that with great emphasis because we're like, Kyron Williams, Matt Waldman favorite. No. I've talked to Matt about Kyron plenty. Like, he's not a real big fan.
Yeah.
But with Cam Akers, Darrell Henderson, is Kyron Williams their best option? Is he our best option for sleeper of the week? Does it matter with no Cooper Kupp? Hey, Allen Robinson's going to now perform like a deep flex.
Yeah.
I guess Tyler Higbee's going to get 11 targets a game now.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess. Absolute disaster. Even the 2016 Broncos, the year after they won the Super Bowl, are like,
Yeah, definitely. Iron's Cat said in the chat room, start both defenses. That's where I was with a take on this game. And they're kind of mirror images of each other in a way. But this is again where that mortality comes in. And John Daigle's on the couch this week. Love John. And we started talking about the Ramses, and he really just fast forwarded straight to like, is this the offseason that McVay and Stafford and Donald all retire? You know?
Yes.
Because that's where the Rams are makes you think about that. You know, Matthew Stafford may or may not play. Look, if you're Matthew Stafford, why would you brush back at all? Cooper Kupp, a tightrope procedure. He's done? Drop him, shut him down. Tightrope procedure around his ankle. Why would he come back in week 17 or 18? Why? So yeah, you just have this offense. What do we have? This backfield broken up into 3 pieces now. We also have, or at least in the passing game, 4, maybe Tyler Higbee. Okay, Tyler Higbee, because this offense is going to be limited. John Walford, he sees maybe there's the human story here. John Walford gets a chance to show the league that he should hang around and get more contracts as backup that gives you something when everything's falling apart.
Right.
Because everything is falling apart.
It's absolutely falling apart. And on the Saints side, I can't say it's much better.
No.
The Alvin Kamara thing, like, go ahead and feel confident about Kamara, and then the Steelers shut him down.
Yeah.
Not sure if the Rams are quite capable of that. So you'll go back to him. You'll go to Taysom Hill, of course, tight end apocalypse this year. And, well, Chris Olave. There's your Saints takes, Bloom.
Yeah, I mean, fantasy takes are basically you play
Is it Jameis
Olave
this week? Because
right.
That was the report yesterday, right? Like, it might be Jameis.
Yeah, and we'll see. Look, if I had to guess that, I would say the fact that they haven't said it's Dalton means it's Jameis, right? If it was,
it's these Dennis Allen games I can't stand.
Well, that's the other thing. I was going to get there, Cease. I was going to get there. And I think that when I look at this Saints team, maybe I underestimated the effect of the head coach here. And I think we underestimate the effect of the head coach because there wasn't really that strong player otherwise for the team's identity to settle around. But yeah, from a fantasy perspective, you're going to play Kamara and you got to play him. And whether it's Winston or not. And look, you would say at this point, if it's Winston, that's probably good for Kamara, even though when Dalton first came in, that's when Kamara took off, because at least Winston gives some hope of the offense moving the ball, some hope of touchdown opportunities for Kamara, something to put defenses on their heels. And Jarvis Landry's back. And you're going to play Olave. And if Winston's back, that's theoretically good for Olave. The last time we saw these two together, Winston was just bombing it downfield for Olave. But we look at the Saints season. I want to toss it back to you like this, because I brought this up a few times in the preseason and in offseason. You would hint at it. But, you know, this is something, and you would love watching like Saints Twitter. Like, I'm not talking about NFL fantasy football Saints Twitter. I mean, people that are New Orleans people who love the Saints and they're just talking about it like real fans of the team, because they've all known what Dennis Allen was, and they're having that Dennis Allen experience too. And when we said that if we say the Saints are going to end up this season adrift, right? They don't have their first round pick. Mickey Loomis, come on, man. Maybe a little desperation there. They don't have their first round pick. It could be a top 5 pick. See, this is a game to see who's more embarrassed to have traded away. Now, I shouldn't say the Rams are embarrassed because they got a Super Bowl, but whose first round pick is going to be so high that it can change the destiny of a team that made a trade with them. And the Saints, you didn't win a Super Bowl. You're trying to keep something alive that is already long gone. So if I said to you before the season, by the way, Juwan Johnson is a tight end option because that's how bad it is at tight end.
All right.
If I said to you before the season, though, that under the leadership of Dennis Allen, this team would be like, the castaway adrift in the ocean on some piece of driftwood and just trying to land on some island and survive. I mean, it seems like this franchise now, without Sean Payton, looking ahead with whatever is going to happen, like they're going all the way back to square one. And that was definitely not what they were planning on going into this year.
Somebody make the meme for us, because what it is, Bloom, and you mentioned the driftwood, I'll bring up a door. What it is Dennis Allen is Rose, Saints fans are Jack, and there's plenty of room on the door.
Yeah.
But he ain't going to let him on.
Yeah.
You're just going to drift away, Saints fan, and slowly freeze in the water of the Titanic crash.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. That's what it is. Lions and Giants is what we've got for our final game to talk about. And then, Bloom, I got to take off to the Broncos today. There's... I don't. I'll say this.
Oh,
we're getting a special treat today.
Oh,
so yes, I have to hurry up and rush out of here so I can get my
tacos.
So I can get my special treat.
Okay, great.
Please be nice to us. Here's your special treat.
Okay.
So there we go. Anyway, it's Lions and it is Giants. So the Lions side of things is like, is DeAndre Swift still mad? Like, huh? What? Okay. Well, he was kind of hurt, and then they brought him back, and Jamal Williams is there, and they're working in tandem, but Swift does a little, and Williams does a little, and sometimes he does a lot. Like, I don't know. I guess I'm confused. Do we look to Brock Wright? Bloom, you mentioned if Juwan Johnson's an option, and Juwan's done more, but like, is it a Brock Wright week? Like, it might be. You've got Miami, Seattle, Tampa Bay, and Jacksonville on bye. Not that you were necessarily looking at those tight ends, but still, like, okay, Lions. Khalif Raymond, my ever popular favorite sleeper of the week. Lions got some issues, some things to talk about going on the road against the Giants.
at least they're showing signs of life, right? They've won a couple of divisional games. They've won games that are the kind of games that they've been losing under Dan Campbell. And they're going to play, spoiler, but a Giants team that nobody had at 7-2, Brian Dable, this team finding a way to win. You mentioned, let's lead with DeAndre Swift. Because the other headline here is Amon-Ra St. Brown. Let's watch his practice reports. Got a little banged up in that game, but otherwise, against Chicago, we were back to it's the Amon-Ra St. Brown's, it's Sun God offense. We bask in the rays of the Sun God. And as long as he's healthy, I think that's obviously what you're going to see here in terms of the passing game. And we're waiting for Jameson Williams to come back. You mentioned Brock Wright. He got a touchdown on a play where it was just an excellent play call, an excellent deliberate read by Jared Goff. He was the tight end standing all by himself in the end zone. But he did show some speed, faster than TJ Hawkinson, really. Maybe, shot in the dark. You never know, because Detroit's offense has been functioning better since St. Brown and DeAndre Swift have been back. And you're going to play Jamal Williams as a running back too. He's going to get probably a touchdown opportunity or two or more, even depending on how this offense works. Let's go to DeAndre Swift, because what have we seen this year? Elijah Moore, right? Benjamin, another one, where players, and maybe it's just, have you earned it? Because players like Benjamin, and Elijah Moore, when they either publicly or privately address desires, I mean, every player should be angry that he's not getting more playing time, right? So he's like, in theory, yes. Every player should be like emotionally rated at the edge of not being able to control their impulses about the amount of time. I mean, consider the investment. Oh my God, every player. So it's totally understandable for a player to feel like emotionally heightened about their playing time. And then when you get to fantasy football, like our angle, and you say, well, that player's actually better. Well, geez, now you're putting the thermometer up through the red, right? Like Elijah Moore, right? So what happens with DeAndre Swift? Well, he's one that it seems like Dan Campbell and his way of managing this team is that's good, right? Like, I think Dan Campbell understands, like, if I have you angry that I'm not playing you more, that's where I want you to be. Not that he's trying to put him there on purpose, but that's the kind of energy we want around this team. And I think it's going to be good. I think DeAndre Swift's going to be good. I think you err on the side of playing him. And then if DeAndre Swift starts getting those explosive plays we saw earlier in the year, now we're talking for this offense again. And I think, Cecil, if you look at it on paper, the Lions and Giants are pretty close roster quality-wise. So the records are very different. But the Lions are starting to feel themselves a little bit. And, the Giants are still trying to convince us that they're a legitimate playoff team.
Yeah, Daniel Jones just smarter than Jared Goff. That's the bottom line. Like, if you want a difference maker, yeah.
Duke, Berkeley.
I mean, hey, but like, no, Daniel Jones is also smart enough to know, because he went through that crucible you always talk about, Bloom, that career near death experience. Like, this was it for Daniel Jones. This was completely it. This was like, give him a year, probably replace him, whatever, move on, look to a new rookie, whatever. And then Jones just took to what Dable was teaching him. And he flourished. And Saquon Barkley being healthy-ish has helped him flourish, because Barkley will be the centerpiece of what this team does. And even Kenny Golladay is coming around.
Yeah.
Like, will we be desperate enough one day to start Kenny Golladay? Well, if he's going to now listen to Dable, like, okay. And coaches send their messages. They send them in multiple ways. And the Giants have listened.
Yeah. Yeah, coaches. I mean, again, don't underestimate how much a coach like Dennis Allen can take a team down. And Brian Dable, and you see Brian Dable, he pops his top sometimes with players on the sidelines. He's demonstrative. I think it's a good moment, Cecil, again, to point out that the emotional energy levels run so high. Cecil, how many fights are there in locker rooms that we never hear about every year?
Tons.
I mean,
tons. A lot.
a lot. And that's okay. I think that it's something that goes along with the intense emotional, psychological, spiritual investment that all the people involved, including some of the coaches, not Urban Meyer, some of the coaches make. And Brian Dable's that invested. And that can be something, again, that is an indicator that you got the right kind of culture. You got a winning culture, or at least a culture that's going to get the most out of what you got. And in the case of the Giants, that's been a lot of wins. Now, for fantasy this week, you like Daniel Jones. You like him because it's Detroit, right? Isn't it easy to envision one play where Detroit gives up a 70-yard touchdown run to Daniel Jones? Right, just loses track of him like they did Cole Kmet. And they've got nightmares of Justin Fields. Daniel Jones can pop off a run like that. In the passing game, though, I mean, maybe Darius Slayton, it was a bit of a fluky play. Daniel Jones did great. One of the things that Daniel Jones, we've cited this many times, one of the things that Daniel Jones does as well as any quarterback in the league, and I really mean as well as any quarterback in the league, is throw the ball with some decisiveness when he knows he's going to get hit, when he knows he's going to get blown up at the end of the throw. And he did that on a short throw to Slayton that had some blocking downfield. But, Slayton, Isaiah Hodgins, remember him from the Bills? He's contributing. So the passing game, you're not sure. Wan'Dale Robinson, Tanner Hudson. You're going to play Daniel Jones, and you're going to play Saquon Barkley. And the question here is, can Saquon Barkley be Derrick Henry? Because 35 carries. Whew. Okay, Saquon Barkley is Saquon Barkley was never the kind of running back that I thought would willingly and almost welcome the idea of absorbing punishment for his team, right? There's a certain running back, Nick Chubb, right? There's a certain running back, Marshawn Lynch, that like almost they feed off of, and the team feeds off of the idea of like, yeah, it's 1 on 11, I don't care. Saquon Barkley, I mean, even though he plays that way in the open field, it's never seemed like a running back who liked the contact. And maybe he's growing and evolving and becoming this, but can he hold up? Because drop off to Matt Breida. We'll see if they have a little more balanced approach here against Detroit. And I'm still, Brian Dable, man. We're talking about a 7-2 Giants teams that should be 8-2.
Should be 8-2. So let's go.
You can't fluke your way to 8-2.
Exactly. Yeah. There's a certain point of the season where you can be a fraud, and then you get to this point of the season, you're like, oh, okay, there you go. It is now time, as we wrap up part 1 of the week 11 preview here on the Audible, for our ever popular, you know it and you love it. So let's play the intro, Sleeper of the Week.
It's time for the Sleeper of the Week, powered by Sleeper.
It's so hot. Paris Campbell, did we talk about him, Blue?
Yeah, we did.
Okay, Paris Campbell,
yeah.
Sleeper of the Week for me, because I kind of want to put a crazy chip on Jeff Saturday. It's like playing 0-0 on roulette, right? You're like, I know it's not going to work, but I just want to see if it does, because if it does, I can brag about the time that I put it on 0-0 with Clayton in Vegas, and it hit. And, well, there you go. It's Paris Campbell, my Sleeper of the Week for part 1 of the week 11 preview. Bloom, what do you got?
Well, I'm going to throw a curveball here and go back to a quarterback as a Sleeper of the Week, even though you can only really play them as a flex and super flex leagues. But again, I want to go back and highlight Daniel Jones. And like you said, Cecil, he's doing what Brian Dable's telling him. It's against a defense that is subject to breakdowns, and Daniel Jones can take advantage of those. So this could be, you're looking at your DFS lineups, your big upside there for Daniel Jones, showing how smart he is against the Lions.
That's it. We appreciate you all. Be safe, be kind, know that you are appreciated. He is Sigmund. I am Cecil. We are the Audible. Everyone out there, thanks for watching. YouTube things, like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you never miss a vid. And we'll be back for you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Mountain for some more of the previews for week 11. Everyone, we love you. Thanks. Stay tuned. And as always, stay frosty.